Welcome all to Walking the Weird. My name is Tyler, and is with me as always.
It's Sean, guys. What's going on?
And I guess we have like a pretty just oodles of fun case today.
It's because the Soviet Union sucks a whole fucking dick. That's why. It doesn't make sense nothing in this case makes sense at all. Go ahead.
So he's having a good time today.
Very good time.
So I guess we're talking about Dyatlov Pass.
Because it's the only fucking word that Russians made that anybody can pronounce, but okay.
No, there's a lot of
Name one that is a single digit that you can pronounce.
Vich. Wait, that's part of it. Yuri.
The only reason you know Yuri from Call of Duty.
You didn't ask that.
You didn't ask. You're like, now you're being specific.
Yeah, see, dude, I want this name. Rustam.
Vladimirovich Slobodin. If you call me Slobodin, that's immediately like a racial term and I'm going to hit you.
Yeah, I would generally be, I'd be mad until I figured out its name.
Yeah, if you call me Slobodin, I'd be like, the fuck you call me?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? Isn't that a character under Nikolai? Isn't that a character from fucking from King of the Hill? Isn't that Matthew McConaughey's character Thibodeaux or whatever the fuck he calls?
Wouldn't it be?
Isn't his name like Randy Thibodeaux and it's fucking McConaughey?
Wouldn't it be Thibaut?
That
But it's
sound,
Russian,
That
so
doesn't sound Russian.
but it's spelled like kind of like French-y.
Yeah, and his last name is Brignoles. That sounds like a pasta dish. What is happening?
His middle name is Vladimirovich.
What is happening? Why do you have to have everything eight fucking syllables? What happened to Joe? Or John? Or Ian?
They didn't get their freedom letters.
Bro, this is like
Hey, like we literally can't. I can't keep saying this. Like all their name. Like I'm getting confused just reading it, and I have the list here.
yeah. Like,
Okay, I want to like because you know kind of what happened with the story. I want to go into more of the injuries. It's literally I just want to know your opinion, what you think happened.
hang on. Also, real quick, before we get into this, do you realize that there is 3 Yuris in this fucking list? It's Yuri Nikolaevich Dorshinako, and then it's Yuri Yamifikovic Yudin, which who the fuck names your kid Yamifivomik? I don't know, but whatever. And then the last one, if things couldn't get even weirder, his name is Georgi Alexeyevich Krivnoshenko. But you can call him Yuri for short.
What the fuck do you want me to say to
Where
that?
do you get Yuri out of Georginov?
And then there's 2 Vladimiroviches.
At the third Yuri, I'm just like, look, I'm calling you Y. I'm calling you Y. I'm just going to call you like JT or some shit.
Dude, just go.
This guy should have been called Triple Y.
At this
Yuri Yamafovic Yudin.
It's like they're trying to be the most like unneeded language. Like that, like their names. It's like just go by numbers.
It's like, we get it, Russia. You believe in democracy now. We get it. Okay, we get it. Like, goddamn. Anyway, okay, so there was 8 fucking people.
9.
Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay, let's start with that problem first, all right? There was 9 people that went on this expedition to Dyatlov Pass. They were supposed to be going to another fucking location, but like everybody in this fucking world, when we do cases, they go, nah, let's do it this way. For whatever reason. I don't know. But they decided. So the whole time, fucking Triple Y, Yuri Yudin, whatever his fuck, basically, I believe it's Yuri Yudin.
Please state the full name. Thank you.
No, I'm not going to fucking spend a half an
No,
hour.
no, no,
trying to
no,
repeat
no.
his name.
You have to say it in Russian. There's like 8
Okay,
N's
fine,
in that.
Fine. Yuri, disappointment and more disappointment. Anyway, the point is, so that guy, he went on the fucking expedition, right? They went out. He spent all this money, bought all this gear, and then at the end was like, oh, by the way, BT dubs, I have rheumatosis and fucking congenital heart failure. And I'm assuming Igor, who's the main leader, was like, you couldn't have told me this like when we were back over there and not in the
How about
wilderness?
before we got on the train?
Yeah, how about before I paid fucking $8,000 and made a threat to Vladimir Putin before you did that?
Yeah.
Like,
It's like,
fucking-
hey, bro. So now that we're on the mountain, I have a congenital heart defect.
I have a congenital heart defect. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, I'd be pissed. Tyler, disclose to me now if you have a congenital heart defect.
Nope,
Because if you go back, I'm going to be mad at you.
that's fine.
Anyway, so we have these 9 people, 8 because Yuri wanted to be a fucking douche canoe. And
I
decided
wanted
go
to
back.
live. I
Yeah.
wanted to live.
Well, you didn't. You died of congenital heart failure and defect, so fuck you. Anyway, so we had Igor,
So mad.
Yuri, Dorshenko, or whatever the fuck, Ludmila, Giorgio, who's also Yuri, apparently, because everyone's named Yuri,
Doroshenko.
Alexander Kolevatov. I've seen some of these names in UFC. Zeneda,
Yeah, I've seen a 3-year-old type some of these.
Rustam Vladimirovich Slobodin, which sounds like a very sexual name, but whatever.
No, it sounds like we're making fun of them. Like we're just making up names.
No, we are making fun of them, but that's their real names.
But I know.
that's their real names. They just
Yeah,
it
we're,
just
we're,
sounds
we're
ridiculous.
this is not the making fun of part. This is their what they have to.
Nikolia Vladimirovich Thibodeox, Semyon, and then Yuri. So those 9 people went. Yuri, the motherfucker, came back because he had the fucking defect. Anyway, let's go on the expedition. So
No thanks.
the group arrived by train at Ivdel, which why would you name a city Ivdel? But whatever. A town at the center of the northern province of
Oblast.
Sverdlovsk Oblast. Because you could make Oblast simpler, but you
It's-
needed 8 vowels in the fucking word Sverdlovsk or whatever the fuck.
That province is Oblast.
Oblast. And they got there in the early morning of January 25th, 1959, because they had nothing better to do than to find weird names on Google and go fucking look at it. They then took a truck to what the fuck is this? Vizhai, a lorry village.
Dude, that sounded really German.
Does it not say Vizhai?
It
A lorry
does.
village. Which, by the way, what does lorry mean? I took it as a note. It said lorry, and I thought I'd include it. Anyway, that is the last inhabited settlement to the north because no one wants to live there. Why would you live there? On January 27th, they began their trek toward Gora Otorten. I thought that was a ghost song name. On January 28th, because nothing happened on the 27th except they started the trek.
Yeah, Yuri yeets out of there because that whole
Yuri
heart
apparently
thing.
has rheumatism and congenital heart
Why
defect.
would you go that far?
And he's complaining the whole time. I would have left him
This,
too.
and by the way, this has nothing to do with like the actual incident itself. It's just weird.
And
It's
get
just
this-
another weird thing.
And get this, apparently Yuri, old boy, didn't even care that he had rheumatism or fucking congenital heart defect. He turned back because of knee and joint pain that made him unable to continue the hike.
Yeah, me too, bro. Like,
Me too, my guy.
Because when I think about a hike, I make sure I'm at the mountain when I go like, you know what, this is a bad idea.
Yeah,
Like,
this
no.
might actually hurt my joints.
Yeah.
It's like,
You're on a train. You went to multiple towns before you went, huh?
I'm
this
assuming
hurts.
even before they got on the mountain, they stretched a little bit. Like,
Maybe not, because maybe that. Oh my God, we figured it out. They didn't stretch.
well, anyway, the remaining 9 people, which were the people that died, fucking ended up going, right? Diaries, cameras found around their last campsite made it possible to track the group's route up to the day preceding of the incident. On January 31st, the group arrived at the edge of a highland area and began to prepare for climbing in a wooded valley. They cached surplus food and equipment that would be used for the trip back. Yeah, okay, the trip back. So the next day, the hikers started to move through the pass. It seems they planned to get over the pass and make a camp for the next night on the opposite side. But because of worsening weather conditions and snowstorms and decreased visibility, they lost their direction and deviated west towards the top of Kolatsiakl, or whatever the fuck that is.
You're doing better than I am.
I'm assuming that's another mountain.
Sure.
Sure. Anyway, so When they realized their mistake, the group decided to set up camp there on the slope of the mountain
Oh, there you
rather
go,
than
yep.
move 1.5 kilometers downhill to the forested area that would have offered some shelter from the weather. Yudin speculated, because he fucking didn't have the balls to stay, Dyatlov probably didn't want to lose the altitude that they had gained, or he decided to practice camping on the side of the mountain, which makes sense.
And-
That makes sense, kind of.
Well, here's the thing. I think we left this out. They were actually up there to train to do something even harder. They weren't just up there. They were like, hey, we're here to, which also doesn't make Yuri's thing make sense. Why would, like, if you're
How
up
did
there
you get
to
this far on this
train-
expedition to train for something when you have those two
Yeah,
conditions?
and I think a lot of the speculation that we're gonna get into this is like, oh, he knew something was wrong. No, I don't believe that. I think he fucked up.
I don't think so. That's too
No?
many fuck ups consistently. It's like, and right now he seems to be the one speculating. So it's like, it fits with Russia that they would try to control the narrative because
Yeah.
look at this article, my guy. I just want to let you guys know, let you guys see that it's completely written like the USSR. Shit's backwards, shit's forwards, nothing pronounced right, nothing makes sense, and people are depressed. Anyway, so before leaving Dyatlov, Igor had agreed they would send the telegram to their sports club as soon as the group returned to Vizhai. It was expected that this would happen no later than February 12th, which why you went on a fucking 18-day excursion, beyond me. But Igor told Yudin before he departed from the group, he expected it to be a little longer. When the 12th passed and no messages had been received, there was no immediate reaction. Delays of a few days were common in such expeditions. On February 20th, the travelers' relatives demanded a rescue operation, and the head of the institute sent the first rescue groups consisting of volunteer students and teachers. Later, the army,
And
the militia,
the police.
for you, Russia, you can't even do police right, bro. Like, stop being a country. Anyway, forces became involved with the planes and helicopters and ordered a joint operation. So, let's recap real quick. Russia sucks dick so hard that when 9 people go missing, instead of sending rangers and trained people, they sent a group of students and teachers. Note to self: never go hiking in Russia. You'll never make it out, even if you're able to stay alive. Because some fucking snotty 14-year-old who's been emaciated from the Kremlin for fucking eons is going to come rescue you, apparently. Anyway. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So, on February 26th, the researchers found...
The searchers found the groups of men like
14 days.
yeah.
14 fucking days. That's what I'm saying. 14 days. And you don't think that Yuri had anything to do with it?
I don't.
How? Like,
okay. I don't
he
because
controls most of the
everything.
narrative.
I don't because everything after this is just weird for no reason because he wasn't there.
I don't think
after this.
I don't think he's involved. I don't think he's involved and he committed the murders. I think he knew that they were going to happen.
Oh, okay. So you okay?
Yeah.
So you knew they were kind of walking into a trap. That's
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He knew that
Because we'll get there.
Because all of a sudden his leg gave out. It's like, but fuck the enlarged heart and your cholesterol level being over 600.
yeah. Why wouldn't you just say that? Like, dude, I can't go.
Yeah, like that wouldn't have been suspicious. But you're like, oh, my scapula. That's your fucking kidney. That's not even in the exact place that you pointed at. But whatever, you know. So
My elbow. We're on a hike.
we're on a hike. I don't understand. Anyway, the searchers found the group abandoned and badly damaged tent on the Kolyat Siakal, whatever the fuck that is. The campsite baffled the search party. Apparently, Russia gets baffled a lot for simple ass shit, but whatever. Mikhail Sherevin, the student who found the tent, said the tent was half torn down and covered with snow. What else would be covered of? Fucking uranium? I don't know. It was empty and all the group's belongings and shoes had been left behind. Because I don't take my shit to the afterlife. Investigators said that the tent had been cut open from the inside. 9 sets of footprints left by people wearing only socks or a single shoe, or even barefoot, could be followed, leading down to the edge of the nearby wood. On the opposite side of the pass 1.5 kilometers to northwest, after 500 meters, these tracks were covered in snow. At the forest edge, under a large Siberian pine, the searchers found the visible remains of a small fire. There were first 2 bodies, those of Krivoshenko and Doroshenko, shoeless and dressed only in underwear, and branches on the tree were broken up to 5 meters high, suggesting that one of the hikers had climbed up to look for something, perhaps the camp. Perhaps you should shut the fuck up and try to figure out, do a little police work. Anyway, between the pine and the camp, the searchers found 3 more corpses: Igor, Kolmogrova, and Slobodin, which, to be fair, kind of deserved to die, but whatever, who died in poses suggesting that they were attempting to return to the tent. I don't know exactly what pose you stand in when you're about to return to a tent, but they were found at a distance of 300, 480, and 630 meters, or 980, 1570, and 2075 feet from the tree.
In freedom units.
In what?
Freedom units.
In freedom units. What do you mean freedom units?
For feet, because everyone else uses meters and kilometers.
In freedom units. Oh, yeah. Dick. Anyway, finding the remaining 4 travelers took more than 2 months. They finally were found May 4th under 4 meters, 13 feet of snow
Freedom
in a ravine.
units. Thank you.
In a ravine 75 meters or 246 freedom units further into the woods from the pine tree.
Oh, sorry, isn't it so much better?
Yeah, it is. It feels kind of good. 3 of the 4 were better dressed. Do you mean fully dressed? Anyway, then the others, and there were signs that some clothing of those who had died first had been removed for use by others. Dubina was wearing Krivonishenko's burned, torn trousers, and her left foot and shin were wrapped in a torn jacket.
Okay, I think we should stop there for a second. So we have that, and
let's talk about this bullshit ass investigation that they're about to do, because I see a lot of people who are underaged in this investigation.
Really?
Like, it's so ridiculous, bro. Anyway, a legal inquest started immediately. No, not really. 14 days after they went missing, but immediately, after the first 5 bodies were found. A medical examination found no injuries that might have led to their deaths,
which concluded that they had all died of hypothermia.
Slobodin had a small crack in his skull. But no, hypothermia for sure, dog. For sure, hypothermia,
Yep.
but small
It was
crack.
not thought to be a fatal wound.
Tyler, explain to me. I'm not a medical professionologist here, but how does a small crack not indicate cause of death?
Well, when
Communism?
Yeah, when you're the USSR, and this makes you look bad. So what you do is say it's hypothermia.
An examination of the 4 bodies found in May shifted the narrative of the incident. 3 of the hikers had fatal injuries, but apparently all died of hypothermia. Had a Thibodeaux, or whatever the fuck that name is. I'm gonna call him Thibodeaux. It's Thibault, but whatever. Had a major skull damage, and Dubinia and Zolotaryov had major chest fractures. According to Boris, whoever the fuck that is, the force required to cause such damage would have been extremely high. I can imagine, considering it was a chest fracture.
No. That's hypothermia. It does that.
Hey, bro, you know what caused this? Like a lot of force. No.
Dude.
Really?
When I got in my car accident, it was actually hypothermia.
Yeah.
Just came out of nowhere.
When Andy died in the hospital, it was all hypothermia, bro.
Dude, that's
had
crazy.
nothing related to seizure or fever, nothing.
Dude, when we had to stay indoors and like make sure we didn't touch anything and then go near people, hypothermia.
And
crazy.
This is why, ladies and gentlemen, we can't have free health care.
Yeah,
because
literally.
everything is listed as hypothermia.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's listed as hypothermia.
Just hypothermia. I don't know. It just sneaks up on you. It'll be like 120 out and just boom, hypothermia.
And just boom, hypothermia. You don't even know where it came from, but cold.
Yep.
Anyway, All 4 bodies found at the bottom of the creek in a running stream of water had soft tissue damage to their head and face. For example, Dubina was missing her tongue, eyes, and part of her lips. Slight damage. You were missing half your face. It was slight damage, though. Slight damage.
Okay, Sean, I get what you're saying. I mean, that sounds like a lot, but what if she was small?
But it's just your tongue. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's my tongue.
Anyways.
Don't you know that the fatherland needs you to say?
as well as facial tissue and fragmented skull bone.
Okay, that could happen to anyone.
While Zolotaryov
Hypothermia sucks.
had his eyeballs missing.
Oh.
And Alexander
I want to
Molotov
see.
had his eyebrows missing.
Well, that's just because he was frightened.
I mean, I don't know. The forensic expert, we're using this term expert loosely, performing the post-mortem exam, because I'm amazed they didn't think that they were still alive, honestly. Judged that these injuries happened post-mortem because, that's what happens.
Of course,
because
when
of the location
hypothermia
of the
creeps
bodies
up on you,
in the
that's
stream.
what happens.
So, let me go ahead and explain this. When something happens post-mortem, and this is me. This is not the Russian specialist that we have here. When you have post-mortem injuries, they no longer pool. They no longer cause bruises or anything because it's post-mortem. The blood doesn't rush. Because I don't know if you know, but no body that I've ever encountered rushes blood afterwards. They're dead.
But Sean, you got to think of what's best for the nation.
We have to keep it a secret. Anyway, so this fucking Einstein decided it was post-mortem for whatever fucking reason, because apparently he missed the first day of medical school. Or whatever they have the equivalent of medical school in fucking Russia. I guess you just have to live long enough
You
to
just rub
see.
2 sticks together.
You have to just live
You're a
long
doctor.
enough to pass all the fucking horrible shit that they have there. But
It's like
whatever.
you have become a doctor.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, so initial speculation, and we use speculation loosely, suggested that the indigenous Mansi people, reindeer herders in the area, had attacked and killed the group for encroaching upon their lands. Several Mansi were interrogated, but the investigation indicated that the nature of the deaths did not support the hypothesis. Only hikers' footprints were visible, and they showed no signs of hand-to-hand struggle. Although the temperature was as low as negative 25 to negative 30 degrees, or negative 13 to negative 22 freedom units, with a storm blowing and the dead were only partially dressed, some had only one shoe, while others only wore socks. Journalists used lightly or loosely, reporting on the available parts of the inquest files, claim that it states the 6 group members died of hypothermia and 3 of fatal injuries. There were no indications of other people nearby on Kloat Sakil apart from the 9 travelers, except for, the missing organs and stuff. But whatever. The tent had been ripped open from within. The victims had died 6 to 8 hours after their last meal. So that blows the whole theory of you found them later because they survived. Okay, whatever. The victims had died 6 to 8 hours after the last meal. Traces from the camp showed that all group members left the campsite on their own accord, on foot. Minus the head injuries, but whatever. Some levels of radiation were found on one of the victims' clothing. Hey, Tyler, I don't know if you know this, but when you die of hypothermia, it's radioactive.
Sounds like it.
It's radioactive and you could die from it.
Dude, that shit gets everywhere.
You know what? I think it's the Mansi people. Those fucking radioactive motherfuckers. I bet you they took their reindeers and their spears and their little stone templates and covered you in radiation.
Dude, you took the whole thing right out of my mouth. You can't say, oh yeah, they all died of hypothermia, so we investigated the Mansi people. It's like, what?
They all died of
Which
hypothermia.
one?
We all. It literally sounds like America 2001. Like we're invading Iraq because Saddam Hussein did this. It's like, what? That's what the Russians did. The Russians are like, we're investigating the hypothermia deaths because the Mansi people attacked them due to radiation.
Hypothermic radiation.
It's like, do you hear yourself say the backwards R or what?
Well, it just okay. Let's say everything in this is exactly how it happened. This is one of the dumbest investigations I've ever seen.
The released documents. The released documents. After this, the released documents said that there was no information on the condition of the hikers' internal organs, despite multiple chest injuries. Whatever. Also, to dispel the theory of the attack of the indigenous people, Vosser Haidani, or whatever the fuck his name is, stated that the fatal injuries of the 3 bodies could not have been caused by the human beings because the force of the blows had been too strong and no soft tissue had been damaged. However, if we go back, there was multiple accounts of soft tissue damage. Whatever, though. Also, I'd like to add that the Mansi people also have been gone for quite some time. Also, are extremely peaceful.
Well, apparently, I did look into the Mansi people part. They are still around.
Oh, there are?
Yes.
Oh,
they are still around. And I'm sorry. If you don't think that it was caused by human beings, why would you investigate? People?
Also, you're investigating
Why?
a tribe of people who are literally known to be the most peaceful people in all of Russia because they spell things correctly, not with the backwards R. Like, I don't get it.
So, and then the internal organs thing. Excuse me.
And then they release.
You can't say there's major. I'm sorry. You can't say there's major damage and then say, "Oh yeah, we don't have any records about."
But there's not
organs.
major damage. Like, it's
Which is it?
also at the time of the official conclusion. We use the word "official" very lightly. It was said that the group members had died because of a compelling natural force.
But the
Inquest officially ceased in 1959 of May as a result of the absence of a guilty party. The files were sent to a secret archive. In 1997, it was revealed.
Why did they have to go to a secret archive?
I don't know. It was revealed that the negatives from Krivonishenko's camera were kept in private archive of one of the investigators, Lev Nichik Ivanov. The film material was donated by Ivanov's daughter to the Dyatlov Foundation. The diaries of the hiking party fell into the Russian public domain. In February 2019, Russian authorities reopened the investigation into the incident, although only 3 possible explanations were being considered: a avalanche, a slab avalanche, or a hurricane. Stop it right there. Stop it right there.
Oh my God.
The possibility of a crime had been discounted. Related reports.
Sean, Magic Yetis.
Yuri-
Magic Yetis.
Yuri
It's
Kontsevic-
Bigfoot.
Yuri
Yes!
Kontsevic- Hang on. Wait, it goes into that. Hang on. Yuri Kontsevic, who was 12 years old at the time, and who later became the head of the Yekaterinburg-based
That's pretty
Dyatlov
good.
Foundation, attended 5 of the hikers' funerals. He recalled their skin had a deep brown tan. Another group of hikers, about 50 kilometers or 31 freedom miles south of the incident, reported that they saw strange orange spheres in the sky to the north the night of the incident. Similar spheres were observed in Ivdel, because why would you name a city Ivdel, and adjacent areas continually during the period from February to March 1959 by various independent witnesses, including the Meteorology Service and military. These sightings were not noted in the 1959 investigation, and various witnesses came forward years later. Now, the aftermath was horrible. Nothing ever happened. They made shows and nothing ever happened. No one figured out anything.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Because they made more money off of them
Right.
not knowing than, yeah.
An avalanche and slab avalanche were later ruled as the official cause of death for the Dyatlov group in 1959.
But what about the Magic Yetis?
Later, independent computer simulation and analysis by Swiss researchers also suggest that the avalanche as the cause. Real quick, I want to explain something about the Swiss people. Great people. Horrible healthcare system. Also, you don't have a space program. So when you're telling me about cutting edge technology, have you ever made it to the moon or Mars or low Earth orbit?
Sean,
No,
you can
thank you.
probably
Okay.
summon Sharknadoes. It's fine.
Swiss can't even be. We are the most technologically advanced. Yes. No, you have not gone to the moon. You have not gone anywhere in the world other than this Earth.
Yeah, but have you used their knife?
I don't even like their watches. Anyway, so original explanation I don't know why this was the original explanation, but this original
Why is it always every time?
this original
Every time.
the original explanation
All right, Yeti
was reviewing
It's a Yeti.
reviewing a sensationalist
Yeti.
Yeti hypothesis.
It's a Yeti.
Hypothesis. American skeptic author Benjamin Radford, the only person who has a fucking normal name in this, suggests an avalanche is more plausible. But he's also a fucking Benjamin Radford, so he's a piece of shit idiot.
Wait. Yeti? Avalanche. Those... Come on.
So, okay, hang on.
What happened to the hurricane?
Hang on. So he said that the group, this was his theory. The group had woken up in a panic and cut their way out of their tent because of an avalanche that had covered the entrance to their tent, or because they were scared that the avalanche was imminent. Better to have potentially repairable slit in a tent than risk being buried alive in it under tons of snow. They were poorly clothed because they had been sleeping and ran to safety of the nearby woods where the trees would help slow oncoming snow. In the darkness of night, they got separated into 2 or 3 groups. One group made a fire, hence burned hands, while the others tried to return to the tent to recover their clothing, given that the danger had passed, but it was too cold, and they all froze to death. Before they could find their tent in the darkness, at some point, some of the clothes might have been recovered or swapped from the dead. But at any rate, the group of the four whose bodies were most severely damaged were caught in the avalanche and buried under 4 meters of snow. More than enough to account for the compelling natural force. At the medical examiner described as the medical examiner described. Dobina's tongue probably was removed by scavengers and ordinary predation. How if they were under fucking 4 feet of snow?
Probably lost all of that.
How did they do that if they were under 4 feet of snow? How did predators? I don't know a vulture that can dig 4 feet under snow.
Yeah, but do you know about Yeti vultures?
Yeti vultures, I forgot about that. Or
See?
Bigfoot sexualized butterflies.
Look, he's not even thinking.
I'm not even thinking. You guys are right. I'm so the arguments against the avalanche hypothesis, because someone had a brain.
Wait. I'm sorry. Before you go into that, so they don't know if there was an avalanche.
No. Also,
How
the
do you not
mountain.
know?
The mountain has no records of avalanche. No records of any other type of snow
But you
that
don't
could
have to
build
go-
up.
You don't have to go there. I've seen on freaking videos and stuff of the people be like, oh yeah, we can tell when there was an avalanche.
Yeah, you can tell. There's signs. Like,
It's not just random.
there's broken
can
broken
be
branches, there's
yeah.
broken everything, but there's signs. You hear a loud noise. You're telling me that okay, and also, second of all, anybody who's been in an avalanche, they'll tell you, brace, don't run, because it's gonna be worse for you. If these guys are experienced people, why would they cut a slit through their tent to try to get out? If anything, what they would have done is either burrowed underneath or tried to avoid the avalanches coming. So why would they go in 3 different groups?
Yeah, no, it would all be one.
It would
trying to
all
get
be one cohesive
everyone
group, yeah.
to go. Yeah, even if even with the slit in the tent, it's like, okay, we got fucking everyone go to the tree line and keep running. You don't stay at the tree line and then.
And how would you get separated if you're coming from the same general source and you know it's dark and these are experienced people? Why wouldn't they travel together like they're supposed to? Like every survivalist will tell you to do.
Why wouldn't they travel with their leader?
Also,
the older guy that's more experienced, he
Right.
would probably tell it, like, what the fuck are you doing?
Also, I don't know a single hiker, climber, or anything like that, or any person that's been in the snow. I don't know a single person who doesn't have a light dangling on their tent. So, you didn't grab the light? Well, we were in a panic. Any survivalist in a panic grabs the light.
Okay,
Grabs light
but-
and bear
but-
mace.
But okay. Let's just say not even that, right? You don't even have to go there. The clothes thing. If you were going to take the clothes from the dead, what they took doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Why would you take burnt clothes?
Also,
like it doesn't make sense.
Also, how did you start a fire?
Love.
How did they start a fire? If they were buried under
I'm
4
sorry.
feet of, if they were buried under 4 feet of snow, there was an avalanche. Let's say it's all avalanche. All of it is avalanche. Everything happened. Boom. There we go. No Yeti. No fucking possible other things that we're gonna talk about. Avalanche. How did you build a fire with all the wet wood?
Let's say, okay, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. No wet wood, even though it's apparently it's snowy enough to where that's not how that works. But they one of the people has a flint and steel so they can make fire.
Where in their vaginas?
Wait.
They were naked. All of them were naked.
I was getting there with the clothes that they had, so they didn't find any of this. They didn't find tools with them. They didn't find anything with them.
So you're telling me that my girl Lindina, or whatever the fuck her name is, was in a fucking G-string and said, you know what, I'm going to grab these 2 sticks just in case, and stuffed it up her hoo-ha and ran from the avalanche.
Excuse me, Yetis.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that they started a fire. Like, it doesn't make sense. The wood is wet. You had to have had survival gear to start a fire. And if you had survival gear, why didn't you grab the rest?
But even if the wood is not wet, where's the tools that they use to make the fire? Okay, they're survivalists. They know how to make a fire without it. So they had all this time to do this. Why wouldn't
so they weren't in a
back
panic
to the tent?
So they weren't in a panic
to get the rest of your clothes.
They weren't in a panic,
or you have one of them. Like the things these people are doing are if like me and you went up there and then something happened, we would die like this.
No, it sounds like someone was chasing them. Because if you're in fear of an avalanche, you're not going to go back. B, you're not going to start a fire, loosening more snow that could possibly cause another avalanche, especially if you're at elevation.
If it's a small fire, okay, maybe. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but
I get it.
But why would you go? You're right on the why would you go back up thing. But if it's like, oh, we don't have clothes, but it's like, what's with the clothes? Why is everyone wrong? Every single person is wrong with the clothes.
Yeah.
Every single one.
And also, if you're an experienced survivalist, I'm not an experienced survivalist and I know how to do this. If you're an experienced survivalist, if you know what you're doing up in the mountains, if you even watched a commercial of fucking Survivor Man, you know that you can take snow and build an igloo and it's insulated inside you stay warm.
You can put snow in here and warm yourself up.
I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one either. I don't know.
I've heard of that.
That I don't know. But for sure, you can make them into blocks and put like a little igloo and then dig underneath and you'll be insulated. Like you can, it'll be warm.
You have a
snow
fire.
Snow is a great insulator.
You have a small fire, right? And your experience. Why wouldn't you, if you know that one of you guys is going back to grab more clothes, why wouldn't you give them your clothes?
What? More important question.
Why
wouldn't you give them fire?
Warm. Yeah, you keep them. If you can't give them fire for some reason, maybe that's why she burned it. Like, it seems like they all went crazy and they got disoriented and they were just doing things that they kind of knew how to do, but none of it made any sense.
I guess you could get disoriented, but how could you get disoriented? You're a trained professional. They were
Yetis are scary.
The highest grade of skiing over there in Russia in the Kremlin is 3. Grade 3. These guys were at that time. These guys are grade 2 and are advancing to grade 3.
They were there to train for
so
the
they should be way more experienced than what they're giving credit.
They were not new to that level. They, like I said, they were training to go to grade 3. They were training to take the test. Like, this is not their first time doing this. Not even at that level. Like, they're past even grade 2. What they did seems like they cut the tent and then everyone just scrambles and just does random shit.
Right. And then more than 100 expeditions had been done to that same spot by other scientists, researchers all over the world, and concluded that the danger zone where Russia had said that it would be susceptible to slab avalanches and avalanches is actually, hang on, let me look at the freedom units.
That's all that matters.
It is actually unlikely for the avalanche, and the dangerous conditions are more than 400 freedom units away in a nearby area. These people are also very, very accomplished. They're also very trained. They also have a lot of survival skills. they've concluded that that area has never experienced any type of avalanche at all. No risk factors of any avalanche. No telltale signs that there could have been an avalanche even directly after
And they would
the
know what to
incident.
do if that happened.
There's skateboarders who get stoned all day that know what to do, or snowboarders that get stoned all day that know what to do in case of an avalanche. It's not hard.
That's
Like-
probably one of the first things they're taught, like when they're taught, because again, they're survivalists. This is not just people
Yeah.
walking in the Russian.
You're telling me that the survivalists forgot the first rule of survival? I don't believe that.
Why? But okay, with what they're saying with the whole tree line thing, like, oh, they all ran to the tree line, but they didn't all run to the tree line. Why
Yeah.
did some of them go back? So if some of them went back, they're like, okay, cool. So they realized there was no avalanche. So
Yeah.
some of them went back. So there was no avalanche. Well, then what's with all the trauma? Oh wait, I'm sorry. There was no trauma. There's no records of the internal organs.
Right. And they're blaming the slope and the unusual excess snowfall, which, by the way, I looked it up. That year actually had smaller snowfall than previous years. So that theory is blown out of the water completely
Wait,
already.
was that in freedom units or
It's in freedom units, yeah,
or
absolutely.
like Russia corruption units?
Okay. And here's where more of the things get more confusing. If you have a fire pit, I understand you would get close to try to keep yourself warm, but and these burns were not like slightly red. They were like third-degree burns. So someone held your hand.
Yeah, you lit yourself on fire.
You lit yourself on fire.
Like it's not
Or someone held your hand there and made you burn.
because and they specifically say it was like burns, not like cold burn.
Yeah.
Because you can do that. To
You can
yourself.
do frostbite, yeah.
you can get like 3rd-degree burns from ice, but they would be that's you could tell the difference between a burn from ice and a burn from fire.
And again, all the predatory animals or whatever that are saying like, hey, they dug out their eyes, they did all that. No, they didn't. They did not. There's no way with the story that you're telling that they were all buried, there was an avalanche, whatever, blah 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 blah. These guys managed to survive, but were also covered in snow. There's no way that predators, hawks, or anything ever could have done that.
I'll actually go with that maybe predators did it, but from everything I've ever seen, they can easily tell because it's not like they're like subtle, like, oh, we're gonna be not. No, they just like rip the stuff out. They damage everything around it, so it wouldn't be a question.
Right.
But
Exactly.
it's a question. Why is it a question?
Now, there's other theories like the Kadabic wind, the Kadabatic wind, because no one can fucking pronounce these things correctly or
Oh,
fucking
so
write
like
them correctly.
Yeti magic. Got it.
Yeti magic. So their whole thing, their whole argument with this is, in 2019, a Swedish-Russian expedition was made to the site, and the investigators ultimately proposed that the violent Kadabatic wind was a plausible explanation for the incident. Apparently, Kadabatic winds are somewhat rare events. Yeah, everything's rare, and can be extremely violent. They were implicated in a 1978 case at Anaris Mountain in Sweden, where 8 hikers were killed and one was severely injured. The topography of these locations was noted to be similar according to the expedition. I'm sorry. A sudden Kadabatic wind would have made it impossible to remain in the tent. Also made it impossible for them to cut out of it. So I don't know. Already it's wrong. And the most rational course of action would have been for the hikers to cover the tent with snow and seek shelter behind the tree line. Although they didn't cover it with snow, most of them did not go to the tree line, and it was cut open. But whatever. On top of the tent, a flashlight also was turned on, maybe intentionally, so the hikers could find their way back to the tent once the wind subsided. The expedition proposed that the group of hikers constructed 2 bivouac shelters, one which collapsed, leaving 4 of the hikers buried with severe injuries observed. 4 feet of snow is not enough to give you a massive crushing chest injury or crack your skull. There's no way. No way.
Now,
And I'm not
you
even
might-
trying to.
Now you might suffocate.
No, you can't. You can't suffocate. It takes 6 feet of 6 feet of dirt, snow, or any type of poundage to fucking collapse your chest.
No, I'm
4
not.
feet is nothing.
No, I'm not saying like collapse the chest. I'm just saying in general, just like they're just like under it, like something's wrong. But you're not.
Well, suffocating would implement or imply the fact that the chest could not expand or contract. That's not enough pressure. 4 feet is not enough pressure for that.
What if a Yeti sits on it?
If a Yeti sits on it, we have a different problem. Now, there was another one.
And by the way, if you're getting annoyed by my Yeti thing, we're
all
I'm
annoyed.
literally saying that
Because they said it.
keep saying it. Oh yeah, it's like that shouldn't be your first conclusion.
Also,
I'm
an
trying
avalanche
to-
should also not be your first conclusion. Let's get rid of those fantastical things
no,
right away.
An avalanche could, but when you look at everything and go, "Oh, there's no signs of avalanche."
An avalanche could
Then it
if an
goes
avalanche
away.
if an avalanche could be made in that area, but it can't, according to them. Another hypothesis popularized by Donnie Eakers, I already don't trust that name, Book of Dead Mountain, is that the wind going around the Kholat Syakhl created a Kármán vortex street, which can produce an infrasound capable of inducing panic attacks in humans. According to Icar's story, the infrared or the infrasound generated by the wind as it passed over the top of the Holachol mountain was responsible for causing physical discomfort and mental illness and distress in the hikers. Icar claims that because of their panic, the hikers, I'm sorry, not the hill. The hikers were driven to leave the tent by whatever means necessary and fled down the slope. By the time they were further down the hill, they would have been out of the infrasound's path and would have regained their composure. But in the darkness, would have been able to unreturn to their shelter. The traumatic injuries suffered by the 3 victims were a result of their stumbling over the edge of the ravine in the darkness and landing on the rocks at the bottom.
Okay.
You're telling me that an ultra rare infrasound.
Why wouldn't Why wouldn't you group together if you're all panicking?
Yeah,
Most humans are pack animals. We group
Yeah,
together.
we would
when
do
we're
that.
Scared.
we would do that. And also, again, they're professional hikers. I know it doesn't mean much to you guys, and you're like, well, yeah, but they could have still panicked. Yes, but professional hikers and professional survivalists are used to the panic. So they would panic for a brief second unless it was something, unless there was external factors like you're dehydrated, like you're severely malnourished.
I'll go with the theory. I'll go with it. Fine. Infrasound. Everyone's panicking. Why'd you cut yourself out of the tent? Why didn't you go out the front?
Yeah.
If there's no avalanche, like you just go out the front.
Yeah. Also,
Like,
if you're in a panic state, the first thing would be to grab a flashlight
or stand up.
Also, 4 hikers were at the bottom of the ravine with the fire going, right? How come those hikers didn't get injured when they fell off the ravine? Why only 2?
3.
2.
3.
It says 2.
It says 3.
Oh, 3 victims. Yeah, you're right. 3. Why would you do that? How did the other 2 not get killed or hurt?
I got it.
If you say Yeti magic, I'm gonna throw it.
No, I was gonna say
dart
a
at
Yeti caught them.
All right. Well, he didn't say that. Now, one of the last ones. No, there's actually a bunch of them. Even paradoxical undressing, which comes from hypothermia, which no, at all.
Okay. And to go through this one, all right. Paradoxical undressing. They all did it. Fine.
But only some of them did it.
Hold on. Let's say all of them did it. Why did they gain more clothes? Because that's not how that works. You wouldn't gain more. You wouldn't put more clothes on. You don't. It's always weird. You wouldn't wrap it around yourself. Like the one lady. Apparently, she had someone's jacket wrapped around one of her feet. I was like, well, there's a piece missing. Was her foot injured? Why only one foot?
Why only one foot?
Was there a sock on the other foot? Like they don't.
Yeah.
There's a giant chunks of this missing.
Yep.
That's the whole point of this. They didn't do a thorough investigation. It doesn't make sense. So everyone has all these theories that don't make sense either, and they just were like, okay, yeah, they all died of hypothermia. Why? That doesn't explain anything.
It doesn't explain it at all. It doesn't. It doesn't. Here's also where this happens. So now there's also a military test theory. Now it gets into the more, believe it or not, credible theories. So the speculation of it, they think that the campsite fell within the Soviet Union parachute mine exercises. The theory alleges that the hikers were woken up by loud explosions and fled the tent in a shoeless panic and found themselves unable to return for supply or any type of retrieval. After some members froze to death, attempting to endure the bombardment, others commandeered their clothing only to be fatally injured by subsequent parachute mine concussions. There are indeed records of parachute mines being tested by the Soviet Union's military in the area about the time that the hikers were there. Parachute mines will detonate while still in the air rather than upon striking the Earth's surface, and produce signature injuries familiar to those experienced by the hikers. Heavy internal damage, which we didn't know because there was no report on, with relatively little external trauma, which we do have some report on. The theory coincides with the reporting sightings of glowing orange orbs floating or falling in the sky within the general vicinity of the hikers, and allegedly photographed by them, which they found photographs of them. That's not the only photograph they found. We'll talk about that in a minute. Potentially military aircraft or descending parachute mines. This theory, among others, uses scavenging animals to explain Dubina's injuries. No animals are going to go there after you've bombed the place. They're not. They're just not.
Not for a while.
Not for days. Like days. And Dubina was also underneath the snow. Again, it goes back to the thing. I don't know any predators that can really dig that far. Anyway, some speculate that the bodies were unnaturally manipulated on the basis of characteristic livor mortis markings discovered during the autopsy, as well as burns to their hands and skin.
Can we stop there for a second?
Yeah.
So when they're saying like, oh yeah, they were unnaturally manipulated, and then the markings discovered during the autopsy, I thought there was no records of their internal organs.
Livor mortis though is it's like rigor mortis where it's like stiffening, and then they manipulated the bodies, so they moved the bodies even though they were stiff and moved them to that way, and there was evidence of that apparently, but all hypothermia though.
Man, a lot of things happened to all these 9 people.
Yeah, dude.
This seems like,
and they discovered burns to their hair.
This could
and
be in
skin.
the Final Destination movie.
For real. Seriously. And photographs of the tent allegedly show it was erected incorrectly, something that the experienced hikers were unlikely to have done. A similar theory alleges the testing of radiological weapons and is based partly on the discovery of radioactive activity on some of the clothing, as well as the descriptions of the bodies by relatives of having
on some
orange
of
skin.
I'm sorry. On some of the clothing, I thought it was one piece of clothing.
Yeah.
Well, which is it?
And the bodies by the relatives
And it
having
never said anything about it.
Orange
the bodies
skin
having it. Yeah.
and gray hair.
See, this is the part I heard. And then I was reading this. I'm like, oh, it's only one. And then we're getting down here. It's like, no, it's not.
However,
Which is it?
radioactive dispersal would have affected all, not only some of the hikers. And the equipment and the skin and hair discoloration can be explained by a natural process of mummification, which no. After 3 months of exposure to the cold and wind, the initial suppression by the Soviet authorities of files describing the group's disappearance sometimes is mentioned as evidence of a cover-up, but the concealment of information about domestic incidents was standard procedure in the USSR and thus far from peculiarity. By the late 1980s, the Dyatlov files had been released in some manner. Now we have the paradoxical undressing. There's other theories. One of them says, and I don't know why it's in every case. One of them says that the Ludmila, the one with missing all that stuff, had was having a relationship with one of the Yetis, and the Yetis got mad, and
Oh my god, I was right. I was joking.
someone, some hiker who was apparently within the area, not super close, but had seen them before, states that he was convinced that the lady who had the eyes missing and the tongue missing was having an escapade with a Yeti, and it was part of the victim because he got mad.
That's it. It's done.
Yetis.
We figured out. What about the rest of them?
No, that they were just killed by the Yeti out of revenge. Anyway,
Why'd they make a fire? No, okay.
it's just, they were trying to be romantic, Tyler. God,
I'm sorry.
Have
You know
some
what?
romance.
You're right. I'm in the wrong.
Also, another theory consists of, it's not really a theory, but it kind of reinforces the military theory, and it also reinforces, to some extent, I guess, not the infrasound hypothesis, but kind of the infrasound hypothesis. So there's another theory that these people were accused of being spies. Now, in the diaries that they released, they do report that there's a lot of weird things happening on the hill while they're there. Things that they can't explain, noises that they've heard, things that don't sound correctly. Now, it's been known that they have Polaroids. They had Polaroids. Everything was photographed in there. They even said it right here. One of the photos shows a figure in the tree, head to toe in white. It's almost non-distinctive. You just see two eye holes and just kind of like the silhouette. And they're sitting at the tree looking at the hikers based on what the diary says. That supports the military test.
I think you could say Yeti.
No, that supports the military test because military
Like
officials
they
would have wanted to watch. Yeah.
Like a sniper's nest, and he's like, "Motherfucker, we're dropping mines,"
Or something like that, right? So it does support that. Now, it also supports the fact that that people accused them of being spies. Because what would Russia do? Well, they would coax you to go on a training expedition, and when you're on the training expedition, eliminate you. Which is why probably they were so gung-ho about the hypothermia thing. With that Polaroid...
And all the secret archives. And
right.
All that.
With that Polaroid, with those diaries that were released either by accident or on purpose, it's a good conclusion to come up with that it was probably a good sense of military testing. And because they didn't want to...
lights.
Right. Because they didn't want to get caught. The Kremlin did what they do.
They realized that, we killed a bunch of people.
Either it was by accident, oops, and we cover it up, or it was on purpose. They're traitors to the cause.
We're covering this up.
We're covering this up so nobody else hears about it. And people keep the fear of Russian whatever.
Supremacy.
And
apparently
it happened the same way with Chernobyl. When that event that they were talking about where the robot comes in actually happened in real life, where the guy in charge said, "Hey, we need a robot to clear the debris. This is how much the radiation is measuring. We need something heavy duty." And the party leader said, "It's not that bad. We just need some extra pull." And when they put the fucking thing on top, it fried. It literally melted. And because they were so concerned with the party number, with the party propaganda over what really happened.
So they destroyed stuff.
This is why communism sucks, guys. Like, wake up and smell the fucking
Yeti.
The Yeti love.
What that's also funny to me that they would start with hypothermia and Yetis instead of. That makes me where I'm like, okay, yeah, you guys killed them.
Yeah, you guys killed them. If a Russian official is going like, Yeti, bro, that sounds like a good idea. It's like, oh, so you killed him. All right, bet. Yep. Awesome. What do you think happened? I want to know what you think happened before we wrap this up.
Okay. I think, like, with the whole avalanche thing, at first I always thought it was an avalanche and people just went crazy because people people do that.
They can, yeah.
But the more that you look into it, the less it makes sense, especially with the experienced people.
You don't think it was a Yeti Tensum, and he just got a little too freaky?
You know, I don't want to think about that, Sean.
A Yeti Tensum?
Nah, I'd rather. Nah.
All that hair at some point is gonna
Just Manscaped.
Manscaped, bro.
But
Trim that shit up, dog.
The way they acted does not make sense with who they were.
Yeah, they acted like a bunch of newbies.
Yes, and I'm not on the side of the older gentleman who, you know, oh, he was in on, he killed it, but he died too. He died horribly too. Why would he hurt any? Like, it doesn't make sense.
What, Igor or Yuri?
No.
Igor
no,
Dyatlov.
Semyon. He was the oldest one there.
Oh,
Because I heard a theory a while ago that, you know, because he had more experience than them. So I think I heard that he pretty much had his grade 3, but he was kind of helping him out, like to learn how, like.
so that theory is a misconception of theories.
Really?
So it's a theory between two things. Two cases that we've already discussed. Well, at least one of them we discussed. This one's the second one. So remember our first.
Did he get taken up in a love ship?
No.
Okay.
No. Do you remember our first episode?
Sure.
The Yuba County 5?
Yeah.
That was called the American.
Oh, Dyatlov Pass.
That's where they got that from. Because if you remember in that story, Gary was way more experienced.
Oh, okay.
In like not just
But
life, but he was older and all that stuff. So a lot of the people who looked into this theory, from what I did research, is that they are confusing Yuba County 5 and the Dyatlov Pass in order to do that. Can you please press pause? So they're confusing both the Dyatlov Pass and the Yuba County 5 as that, because Gary is all misconstrued as being older and all that stuff, and they're thinking that this guy who was older might have done the same thing.
Okay. I just I don't know, but maybe the military did it because the orange lights. That's what kind of leads me there.
Yeah.
But everything else doesn't make sense. But with them doing that to those people, that would make it so they're just fucking losing. They're just running. They don't know what the fuck's going on. That makes sense. Everything else, I don't believe at all.
Yeah.
I don't know avalanche. I don't believe in the infrasound. Not that those things don't happen.
Right.
I'm saying in this case, I don't believe any of that.
Right.
It's something else because it doesn't make sense, because with human nature, I've said this 3 times now. We would group together. They would group to the leader.
Instinct.
Like
it's instinct.
It's what we do. It's how
do.
it works. Like, it's annoying. Like, the fact that they'd be like, oh no, they just all ran off in 3 separate directions. Yeah, you'd want to know, like, if you really think about it, when people do that, when they're being bombed, they just start scattering because they think everyone's like, they're trying to save everyone.
That would make sense.
Like, they just fucking go in different directions because they're like, I don't know what to do, and then, you know, it stops, so one of them makes a fire, and then they have to figure out what.
And not just that. Think about it. You're coming out from a tent. You're both. Let's say you're both headed the right way, and a bomb goes right here, blows these guys. Maybe doesn't kill them, but just moves them, and now you're in front of the bomb. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm gonna go this way then, and dip. It fits better. Fits better. But
that's the only thing I've ever seen.
But hypothermia, bro.
Yep. Well, the sad part is, it was hypothermia, but
after the military involvement,
yeah, because you killed them. Like, they didn't just cut open their tent and start running around in the snow.
Yeah,
like, because they're disoriented. Yeah, you'd be too if bombs were blowing up in the air above you.
Which makes sense of the disorientation.
Well, why would a couple of them run off a ravine? Well, if you're happen to be in the line as it goes, you're just gonna keep going. Like,
yeah, if shit keeps blowing up behind you, you're gonna keep running that way.
You're not gonna pay attention, and then if the snow is deep enough,
because again, maybe a soldier might know that. Maybe a soldier might be like, "Oh, okay, it's coming this way. I'm gonna go this way instead of going this way." But a person who's a experienced hiker is not gonna go this way. He's gonna go this way.
But especially with like the sound and everything of those,
it
would sound like everything is all around you,
and you're in the mountains, so it echoes, so you don't actually know where they're coming from.
you just see the lights, but you can't really turn around. And then some of them turned around to get their. They probably stopped. They didn't know where everyone else was. They probably turned around to go get their shit and hoping that
everything went out.
And then they never made it back.
I agree. I'm with that. I'm with that of mind.
That's the best I can come up with.
I'm of the same mind. I think it was the military did all this shit. I don't think Yeti had a love affair with fucking.
Maybe after.
I mean, maybe after. I mean, we don't know. We don't know Yeti's kink, but that's what I'm saying. I'm 100% of the mind that the military did this.
Yeah, don't yuck the Yeti's yum.
Yeah, dude, for real. Don't kink shame.
But yeah, I think this is a good place to stop because
Yeah.
I don't see any. There's no explanation for this besides really that. And if it wasn't that, what
What are we doing?
are we gonna do with this?
Yeah.
Because
And there's nothing we can do.
yep. So all right, well, like always, I've been Tyler,
I'm Sean.
and we'll see you around.
Stay away from military bombings
Apparently, we have to say that,
and Yetis,
especially Yetis.
especially Yetis.
Fucking weird.
All right, later, guys.